Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Sherfy, and this is my initial family session therapy video. So the first segment that I will be addressing is how would you begin the first meeting in terms of laying out the goals and structure and starting to join with the family and gain their trust. So in the first session, I will start to explain how the therapy process works. So I will explain that therapy can vary somewhat by therapists, especially when the approaches are different. After I explain this, I will then disclose my disclosure statement, tell them what type of therapy I provide, and that they may want to know more about the specific approach to treatment that I would provide for them. I also then would let them know how to contact me in between sessions if there was ever a crisis, how they could then reach me or reach the crisis line. And then we would dive right into the session. So I would greet them, and then I would allow introductions for everyone in the room. I would ask to begin, I would then begin to ask questions about the family and any concerns that they are having. This should start to build the trust between me and the client, just asking the questions in general to them. I would also be facing them to show my engagement. I would also let them know that any nervousness or anxiety that they feel about the first session is totally common. It's nothing to be concerned about, and it's very normal. I then would proceed to ask them not only what led them to seek therapy, but what they would like to get out of therapy, because that is going to be very helpful for myself to figure out why they are here and what they want to get out of this therapy session, just to make sure that I am hitting all of the goals throughout every session. And then this can create a sense of security between me and the client. And begin then, we will then start the journey, towards positive change. So the second segment, it says, what might you say to interrupt any bickering or blaming that the parents may start to do with each other? So I provide right now in-home services to my clients. So a lot of the times that I'm there, the parents are blaming one another, they're bickering, and I'm there to, either go over a family service plan or see what services still need to be implemented, and figure out how I can help or what I can do differently. So something that I've been working with my clients is self-soothing. It improves the stability of the relationship by allowing you to maintain yourself and your connection with your partner during a tough conversation, because not every conversation is easy. So I tell my clients, write down what your partner says, and any defensiveness you're feeling, they can use a notepad and to write everything down, what that partner says, especially helpful, when they're feeling defensive. I also wrote down that this also helps you remember what was said when you reflect back what you hear, or it's your turn to speak. So that is very important as well. I also will remind them to be mindful of love and respect. We're not here to blame one another, but we're here to gain a better insight on how we can help one another and how we can better the situation. I also will then tell my clients to slow down and breathe. It's a great way to self-soothe, just recollect your feelings. Sometimes doodling on the notepad can help while the other person is talking, even though you're still actively listening. I will then remind them, don't get lost in the activity or stop listening. It's just to distract you while the other person is explaining how they're feeling, and you might not like what they're saying. I also have learned that holding on to yourself and looking inward has helped a lot of people, to stop blaming and bickering during our sessions. So it just means considering that your partner's compliment may have some truth in it, and just not take it as offensively, but more so as okay, I might do that and that might bother them, or this is true, even though I don't like hearing it. I also will suggest to my clients to not take the compliments or whatever's being said personally. It's just that everyone's different. Everyone has different concerns about what the other person does or what situations might be arising and how it is affecting them. Because like I said, everyone is different. Everyone has a different approach on different stuff. Or then we can ask our client to reframe. We can ask them to reframe the question or what is trying to be said in a less non-triggering way. That's also, I felt like, has helped me to not allow my clients to, interrupt each other with bickering and then start the blaming game. So I would tell all of this to my clients before we get into the topic. I would then go over everything I just mentioned. The last thing I would tell them is to push the pause button. I would say if they really are having a hard time sitting in the same room next to each other talking about the concerns of why we're in therapy or something that might come up, I will also just tell them to say pause, and then we can take a quick breather. We can recollect our thoughts, and we can try to push forward, or we can end it. This allows the client to feel more in control and not so much just me having the control. So I do like this technique. It gives them, like I just said, the control that they're looking for. It also allows us to build the rapport with one another to see that they can trust me, that if they want to stop, we can stop. It's not something that I'm forcing them to do. So it's totally at, their call. The third segment, it says, how might you end the session, including any homework that you might suggest to help them meet the goals that they have set up for themselves? So I would help guide therapy by outlining the client's goals and objectives. I personally think that without such goals and therapies can become aimless as new problems arise each week. Causing therapy continue, indefinitely. So I feel like having goals and objective is definitely, a number one priority, during therapy, because you don't want this client to be in therapy forever. You definitely do want to set some goals for the family, for each person, for yourself. So goals create like a clear finish line for therapy and give each session a direction, which it should be. It should be structured, have goals, sometimes homework, and just have, some accountability for everyone in the room. So I would collaborate with the client to establish specific and achievable and measurable treatment goals. I will create a treatment plan for each person as the family as a whole. And I also give them a copy, so we will refer to it each session, and then they can take it home to figure out what they need to work on, what we talked about, the homework that we have, both agreed upon for the next session. And then we'll just revise this every session to ensure that they're still relevant and attainable. I also, found out that a lot can be shared during a counseling session. It's very important to implement strategies both during and after the session, that you can keep it the session flowing and positive throughout a manner from session to session. Like I definitely wouldn't want the session to be all over the place because nothing I personally think would ever get done if it's just all over the place and not structured. So I would summarize at the end of the session with the client. Within the last 5 to 10 minutes of the session, I would make a summary statement and check in with the client to see if the client agrees with what we have observed, heard, and thought during the session, just to make sure that we are on the same page. Once the summary is confirmed with the client, I would propose what the focus of the next session will be, or considering assigning homework for the client to do before the next session that could prepare us for the next session. So going over the homework that was assigned could lead us into the next session. And then I would then, make sure that we're on the same page, that the client is feeling better than they did before they walked in, or if they're not, just address any concerns at the end of the session. And then also, once the client leaves, I would jot down on my own notepad some keywords regarding the summary and suggested activity for the next session, just so I don't lose my train of thought. But yeah, so, the goal for, the therapeutic process following is, semi-structured, like I just said, productive manner, so each session continues to move forward, improving the client's functioning and the realization of the client's goals. So in the beginning, laying out that structure is definitely very important, I feel like, in a therapy session. And then, just ending it with a summary helps the counselor and the client, have a better understanding of what they're both there for, how the therapist can help, how the client is going to interact with the therapist, what they want to gain from therapy, and just, have a clear-cut timeline. I know there is no timeline for therapy, but just to give the client a sense of, how long, how long the sessions will be, how many weeks they'll be coming, how often. So it's very important, to be on the same page in regards to, the work the client is doing and the goals the client is accomplishing. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my video, and I am looking forward to your feedback. Thank you.